Hi, and welcome to The Curling Show, the podcast that brings you interviews with the sport's top athletes and the people who shape the game. I'm Dean Gemmell, and in this edition, we talk to Mark Johnson, skip of one of those good Edmonton teams that's not named Martin or Furby. Mark Johnson, the police officer who went down to Lethbridge last weekend and got out of town with $9,000. Welcome to the show.
Well, thanks, Dean, for inviting me.
Hey, let's talk about your team's start this season. You're now number 5 on the Asham World Curling Tour money list, and with the exception of your DNQ at the West Coast Curling Classic, I'd say you're off to a reasonably good start. Fair assessment?
Yeah, I'd say so. We're quite happy with the way actually the team's played over the last 2 years. We had a new position change with lead man being switched this year, and Adam Enright now playing lead for us, but we're very pleased with our start so far, and we're looking forward to the rest of the season.
You talk about your change at lead with Adam Enright replacing Nolan Thiessen. Were you surprised when Nolan left the team to play with Kevin Cooey, or was it a mutual decision?
No, actually, we were taken by surprise. We didn't really expect it. We had actually a team meeting not long before he had told us, and there was full expectations, I guess, that we were playing together next year. And we were quite happy with Nolan on our team, but I think he decided to go to a younger team, and he's thinking ahead for the Olympics and things like that. I guess maybe more so, and that's one of the reasons why he went to a younger team, I believe.
A younger team.
A younger team, yes.
Talking about you and especially maybe your third, Rob Buchholz. You guys seem to have a lot of respect from your fellow competitors. Many who actually seem to sort of pull for you at times. But you two guys especially don't have the sort of glittering resumes that many of the top players from Alberta seem to have. Junior titles, and your only national championship was a mixed in 1984, I guess. So fill us in on your curling history, Mark.
Well, I think Rob and I have always been pretty competitive in the Alberta circuit. A lot of it has to do with work, I think, over the years, commitment to work, unable to play a lot. A lot of the top teams in the world that you see, the Kevin Martins, the Randy Furbies, the Madaws and stuff like that, Howards. They do tend to play a lot, and they have to in order to play well, I believe. And I think really the last 2 or 3 years, my work schedule has allowed me to play a little bit more, and Rob would probably be the same thing. So I think with playing a little bit more, we've gotten better, and I think we've always been up there when it comes to Alberta in the curling world, I think. But, outside of Alberta, we're probably not that well known. But I've played in a number of other Canadian championships with the police curling and stuff and won 4 of those. So that's given me some experience at a national level, I'd say. Of course, the curling's not quite as elite as you'd get in the men's provincials here in Alberta, or of course the Brier and stuff. But there's still, I think, and Rob himself has won a number of bond spills and stuff like that. So we got together. The chemistry has a lot to do with the team too. We get along so well, and we feel very comfortable with each other on the ice.
Do you still play in the police championships at all, or now that you've committed to a little bigger schedule, you don't do that?
Yeah, the last 2 years I haven't played in it because of the commitment to the other schedule. So, I just made a firm commitment to myself that I was going to really try to get to the Brier and advance that dream that I've had for many, many years. So the only way I can do that is really make a commitment full-time, I believe, to the men's tour.
Talking about the Brier, you were basically one shot away from a trip last year, and then you attended as Kevin Martin's 5th. I've got to believe that maybe going as an alternate was an experience that was strangely bittersweet.
It was, absolutely. I was rather surprised that they asked me, but pleasantly surprised, of course. They must have seen me after the game moping around and feeling sorry for myself.
That's a good way to get picked up as an alternate, isn't it?
Yeah, it was.
Nice strategy.
I'll tell you. Yeah, if you look sad enough, maybe some people feel sorry. A cop moping in the corner, maybe that's what it was. But the experience was wonderful, and I must say is that I had the opportunity to play a couple of games at the lead position. I think I was far more nervous playing lead for that team than I would have ever been if I was skipping a team at the Brier myself, but hadn't played lead in quite a while. Plus, they were on a good roll. They were playing well and right at the top. And moving in there to play lead, I was pretty nervous, but things worked out, and I sure had a great time with them. They're a bunch of guys to be on the road with. So. And
I guess it's the kind of experience for you that's necessary to build on, anyways, right?
Absolutely. Anytime you get that kind of experience under your belt, it it really it helps you out. And last year we had the experience to play in a couple of the slams events along with the Players Championship. We had never been in those before, and actually, quite honestly, we at the beginning of the year we hadn't really planned on playing in them necessarily, but it happened because of our performance last year and what we did on the tour. And when you get the opportunity to play in those things, you learn from them. So I think we're actually playing in the next slam in Ontario here, and I think that we've learned a lot from the experience that we had over last year.
Following up on that, you are in this season's first Grand Slam, the Masters of Curling in Waterloo, Ontario, starting on November 29th. Do you feel you have something to prove to people who may question your presence there?
Well, I think so. I can honestly say that the slams that we've played in so far, we haven't played at our top game for sure. I think in part due to the inexperience of being in them.
I think some people may not realize just how tough a slam is. I mean, you're facing tougher teams end to end than you are in a Brier, for example.
Oh, exactly. You really do have to play at an elite level, at a top level, the best your game. You have to bring the best into your game in order to beat these teams. So you can't have a mediocre game and win in a slam. So, but with that in mind, I think that we can feel personally that we haven't played at the top of our game in those events. We've had a few good games, really good games. So I think we're hoping to do better.
You jumped up 8 spots on the Asham World Curling Tour money list, but you did it winning in Lethbridge at Don's Drywall Rainbow Classic. But that's a place where the field was clearly not as strong as the one in Portage La Prairie last weekend. Was it really travel and commitment time? That's why you chose that spiel?
Well, that's part of it, I think. And we like to also support the Alberta events. We are an Alberta team. The last 2 years we focused just solely in Alberta because we wanted to get into the provincials through the Alberta Bonspiel Tour. So our focus was to play within Alberta, and we still believe in supporting your provincial events if you can. We've moved outside of Alberta and played a couple events in BC already this year in Vernon, where we came runner-up there to Brent Pierce, and then New West, where we didn't do much of anything other than do a little sightseeing there. But we do believe in the Alberta Bonspiel Tour. It's the last 2 years we've won that tour here in Alberta, and we think it's a good thing going, so we'd like to see the support of the Alberta Bonspiel Tour, too.
And I think it is. I think the regional tours are great and important to support. I guess my one thing I wonder sometimes is, you look at the event in Lethbridge and the Coupe Saguenay, and you start to wonder if there doesn't have to be some sort of bar for a World Curling Tour event. I can sort of see why teams from, say, Ontario might get frustrated when they see an event that's a World Curling Tour event that's maybe not as strong a field as other events. So I don't know where you go with that. I think it's a funny thing that the sport sort of has to sort out what's a regional curling tour event and what's a World Curling Tour event.
Right, yeah. The sport is still growing in so many different ways, Dean, that we still have a long ways to go. You're just starting to see the different tours kind of get together and try to work things out that way. And, I don't know what the real great answer, because curling still needs to support grassroots too at the same time.
Right. I don't think the answer is ever going to be happen overnight. I think it'll gradually evolve.
Yeah, I would agree, and I think we need the stars in the sports like the Jeff Stoutons, the Kevin Martins, Randy Furby's team. We need those too because really they do develop the game. People watch them; they become heroes of curling fans, and that's what often gets people into the sport is by watching them. So you need that too. And
but at the same time, we need a group coming up behind them.
Exactly, yeah.
They'll be 50 before we know it, right?
Right, that's right. And I'm not that far away myself, so I'm too old.
Yeah, unfortunately, you're not part of the next generation either, Mark. But
no,
you could be part
definitely
of this
not.
Hey, during last year's Alberta Provincials, you guys played Steve Petrick, and with Kevin Park throwing last brick, they ran out of time against you and automatically lost the game. It was sort of ugly. Their team disputed the fact that they'd run out of time, and Rob Buchholz got pretty hot. You were the one who tried to get him to stay calm. I know you're a police officer, but are you also the good cop on your team?
I'm a competitor too. I always like to win. That's the goal when you go out there and step out onto the ice is to beat your opponent. But, I guess maybe being a police officer and at times being a mediator in disputes, maybe I fit into that role a bit. But, when something like that happens, you have to let the officials really step in and make the decision. And it's their decision. It's not that we were controlling the time clocks. That's a decision they had to make. And you can understand some of the frustration with the time clocks because we're all on them, and they do keep you going, but at the same time, it changes your game sometimes during the course of the game because you have to speed up and play it simple for a few ends if you're starting to get a little too slow. So, I think they're a good idea, but I think that's something that should be looked at too, the time clocks, because, they could look at a different system there too at the same time.
I think the intent is really, to keep the games compact. It's not so much to have somebody lose. And I could tell you were not comfortable winning that way, but a rule is a rule. I think that the clocks help, but they're really not intended to decide the outcome of a game.
No, that's right. And I think it punishes the teams that happen to get behind a few points because they're the one throwing the draws. And
right.
Generally, if you're up a number of points, you're throwing hits.
Or teams that just play more aggressively and throw a lot of draws. Exactly.
And our team actually plays pretty aggressively normally, too. So, I think they should look at a system where they actually time the actual downtime of a team rather than the time of throwing.
Right. That seems like an obvious improvement to me, just a time in between so you don't get penalized for a 25-second draw.
Exactly, yeah.
That makes a lot of sense. Well, hopefully maybe we'll see that. I don't see why that's a tough change to make happen, but in curling sometimes these things take a while to come about.
They do. I think they're looking at that a bit because that would be, I think, a big improvement. Teams that are aggressive should not be penalized, and teams that play it simple should not be rewarded by saving time on the clock.
Right. It goes against every other development they brought into the game. So.
Exactly, yeah.
All right, Mark, we finished with the run back where I give you a topic and you give me your thoughts in 1 to 3 words.
Oh, okay.
All right, mixed doubles curling.
Mixed doubles curling. It could be fun.
Yeah, I think it's the best chance for another Olympic sport. I like that better than the singles myself. I think the singles is kind of gimmicky.
Yeah.
The Dodge Charger cop cars.
Oh.
Do you guys have those in Edmonton yet?
Not yet, but love to drive one.
Yeah, they're a big improvement, I think. Your ranking in the Black Book of Curling.
My ranking in the Black... I have no idea. My ranking in the Black Book
You
of
haven't
Curling.
looked at it yet to see where you are?
No.
Well, you'll have to do that. Ralph Klein.
Ralph Klein, not a politician.
He's not a politician, or you're not a politician?
No, he's not a politician.
All right. I think you mean that in a good way, then.
I do, yeah.
Kevin Martin.
A lot of respect for him.
The 2007 calendar of female curlers.
Oh, that was beautiful.
Well, the 2006 you saw, the 2007 is on the way. I'm not sure when, but it's coming up.
Okay.
Some surprise. Apparently there's more Canadians in it this year.
Perfect.
All right, Mark. Well, thanks for being on the show. You seem to have a lot of people pulling for you, for your team to do well. So good luck the rest of the season, and it's nice to see a new team emerge on the Asham World Curling Tour.
Thanks a lot, Dean.
That's Mark Johnson on The Curling Show. Last week, I asked a question about Saskatchewan's Wilson brothers on this podcast, and Brent Pierce, yes, that Brent Pierce from British Columbia, was the first to email the answer. Tom wore the headband, and Jim wore the Pirates cap. Thanks, Brent. Thanks for listening. Here's Black Pudding.